Wipeout. Greetings, everybody. This is Vandal Drummond, joined at the hip, my comrade, Alfredo Esparza. How are you doing tonight, Fredo?
I'm doing good. You know, the bad thing about this is without the music, like once I add the music, it makes no sense afterwards that I'm complaining about not having music as the intro. You know?
Okay, so that's the mission tonight, is to find a song about having trouble finding songs. There's got to be one out there. There's a song about everything.
Yeah. So how are you doing, sir?
I am doing really well. I know last time our show aired, it was before the earthquake and tsunami hit Japan, and just want to send a big wave of compassion over there, and hoping I know the situation is getting worse with the nuclear reactors.
Yeah, seriously.
And I think we can both concur. We're just wishing for the best for everybody. I made a donation to American Red Cross, and I encourage everybody who, if you have some sort of way of expressing your empathy, sympathy, to give in any way you can. What's really cool about the internet age is if you want to go the Red Cross or any other circuit, there are scores of ways you can donate. I went through Amazon.com. You can make donations through there. I know there is a text. If we just Googled it really quick, I bet you
can do it through PayPal also. So
you can do it through PayPal, but
so
if anybody can, people can spare.
Has you can donate through iTunes. Amazon might. I know they have in the past. If you don't, if for whatever reason, if you'd rather do it that way, if you happen to have money on an iTunes gift card and that's just easier for you, you can do it through iTunes. But
we're joined by the Big C Demon.
Yes, you are. But Red Cross website, obviously, and anything that you would presume to be trustworthy that says they're giving the money to the website, like an iTunes or an Amazon, also.
Yes, an established company like that.
Yeah. I usually.
Well, I think I could say with the three of us, the most common bond we have with the country of Japan is their wrestling scene, and I bet you anybody out there, wrestling fans or non-wrestling fans, have some sort of connection. And even if there wasn't, we'd want people to do the same for us if we were in a situation. I know it didn't go overly publicized, but when the disaster in Louisiana hit several years back, a number of countries came to our, gave aid. So let's show it.
Yeah.
On that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I cut whoever off just started talking.
I think I was starting to
as I am wont to do.
And it's awful, but you also hear just some amazing stories of, people doing the right thing. Like Apple has this giant 5-story Apple store in Ginza, and it became this hub of people. People could bring in their phones, and they had chargers set up if people needed to charge their phones, and use Wi-Fi to contact people or watch news on Ustream or anything. And also, Apple was taking care of the employees very well, whether, just for the night, if they needed to, they could sleep in the store, but if they needed to, whatever they needed to have shelter, if they needed to stay in a 5-star hotel, Apple's paying for it.
That is wonderful. It's really, really heartening to hear stories like that. I didn't read the body of the story, but I saw a headline noting that there were a number of American workers in Japan, and I don't know who it was. They, people with good intentions were wanting them to get back to the States, and apparently one of the groups absolutely refused and wanted to stay and help out in any way they could. And it takes a lot of guts and a lot of compassion to make that move. And I wouldn't blame anybody for wanting to get back home. when you're in, a land that's not home. So, I mean, that just, have a lot of admiration for those folks.
Yeah, I, at least as far as the wrestling side of it, I don't know that much beyond what was in the Observer, but, the worst thing we've heard, though, is that Jinsei Shinzaki lost his business and his house.
Wow, I did not hear that.
Because, he's up in northern Japan with Michinoku Pro. And
I am so sorry to hear that.
Noodle shop and his offices for his women's promotion that he owns. I think his house are all destroyed.
Wow. Oh, man. Well, I hope when the time comes, I hope there'll be some, people stepping up for him, whether it's through benefit shows, donations. It's always difficult hearing that news. Well,
he's been in so many promotions that I'm sure he has enough friends that
yeah, that's true.
That we'll see a benefit show. Bret Hart posted on Twitter that if anyone can get into contact with him, that'll help him out.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow, very cool.
Well, when did Bret Hart do this? When he's not wasting time arguing with Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair?
Or when he's arguing with a fake Ric Flair on his Blog Talk show.
Yeah, starts drawing Ric Flair.
Well, actually, no, he didn't argue with Ric Flair. His co-host did on the.
No, he actually drew a picture of Ric Flair.
I saw the picture of Ric Flair.
Yeah, that's actually quite good.
Yeah, first, did you see this?
I didn't even hear of this.
It's a pretty good picture, though.
It's a picture of Flair. I think he has his hand to his head as blood is just squirting out of it.
It's a really good picture. You got to see it, Kurt. It's really good.
I will have to look that up. That sounds priceless.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And his Twitter account now, he was able to stop the one that was Twitter/Bret Hart. So now he's Twitter/Bret Hart because he had been Twitter. It was like at Hitman Bret S. Hart. So now
I am convinced that Twitter is eventually going to be a sort of is going to eventually become a verb, and it's going to be a verb meaning specifically, I'm going to make a fucking fool out of myself today. People just do the silliest things on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond I don't even see this kind of stuff on Facebook, MySpace combined.
Oh my
like
God!
Everybody...
Wait, I hadn't seen a big version of the picture yet. He doesn't have. Flair doesn't have his hand to his head, so he's not in the process of bleeding, but he has blood. He's smiling as there's blood squirting out of his head.
Yeah, it's
big nose, and he has floppy old blady boobs.
It's a great picture. I mean,
just go to twitter.com/Bret Hart, go and a few tweets down where he says to reflect the new Twitter name, and click on the TwitPic link.
I think
I gotta say this. It is so awesome that Ric Flair is such a great artist. It must be so cathartic when you're pissed off at somebody, and just you can vent it through doing a really derogatory depiction of them on paper. I actually envy that skill. I must say.
We should make a T-shirt out of that.
I think something like that should be up the road. I think Bret Hart would be fucking foolish if he didn't make a T-shirt of that.
Yeah,
I think that would be money. That would sell more T-shirts than Bob Barnett's T-shirt that he made about 15 years back of Jerry Lawler's mugshot.
Oh, God.
There's also an adorable picture of him with his granddaughter.
What?
Jerry Lawler?
Brett.
Oh, Brett.
Oh, Lord. Oh, wrestling.
Is it on his Twitter page? It's on his Twitter page?
And, honestly, I was actually a little depressed looking at the Brett drawing at first just because his drawing used to be so much better before he had the stroke.
Really?
Yeah, I remember once in WWF Magazine, it was either like the picture he drew for Andre when he retired or a similar one, and it was better than the version he did in his book, and stuff like this. I mean, he's still very, for a guy who had a stroke, he's still quite talented.
Still can bring it.
And
that's cool.
The one in the book, have you read his book?
I loved his book.
Now, he has this, in the front and the back, there's this big, color drawing of all sorts of different people who are in the book.
Yeah, the big cavalcade of wrestlers, which I think is really, really cool.
My favorite, though, is Mel Phillips lying on the ground staring at someone's foot with his eyes bugging out.
Oy.
Okay.
Although
guys,
he looks more like Apu from The Simpsons.
We got 2 more callers on the show.
So who's here?
It's Ryan.
Ryan Doyle, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Just listening to all the Bret Hart talk here. Yeah, he's
pretty hysterical.
He's a pretty good artist. He's no Jerry Lawler, but he's pretty good.
Yeah,
Lawler's an amazing artist.
And this is Dan. I've joined too here.
Oh, hey Dan.
Dan Farron, the man, the shoot fighter himself.
It's very, very hard to get a spot to get in sometimes.
I know, seriously. You're telling me, Dan. Come on. It feels like a.
But before we go off,
what happened?
Before we go off in another wrestling direction, you always have to leave it to me to bring up something non-wrestling every episode. So I'm going to get it out of the way really quick.
Okay.
I wonder if we brought up more non-wrestling things every episode.
Well, that's my aim. That is my aim. But
in fact, I thought your goal was not to talk about wrestling at all on this show.
Well, when Kurt talks about wrestling, he's also not talking about wrestling.
Well, that's true.
That's very true. That's very true. I give the Tom Waits quote that I sent to Bix. I love it when I hear things incorrectly. That's where I get some of my greatest ideas. And so that's me. Well, I want to observe the passing of Ferlin Husky, who, although he is in the Country Music Hall of Fame and is best known for his hit On the Wings of a Snow White Dove, I remember him best as the guy who played the Swamp Ranger in the Okefenokee Swamps in one of the greatest films ever made, Swamp Girl, that starred Simone Griffith. And if you want to see one of the greatest movie trailers ever, just type in Swamp Girl, Ferlin Husky on YouTube, and you can't beat it. It's almost as good as the trailer for The Adventures of Lucky Pierre.
Have you seen the entire movie?
Swamp Girl?
Yeah.
Oh, I've watched it 3 times.
Have you seen it, Dan?
Yeah, I have actually. It is pretty funny actually. It's a genre that doesn't really exist anymore. Like in the 1960s and 70s, what they used to do was a lot of guys, little film auteurs down south would make basically drive-in pictures, films that were really, really, centered for drive-ins in South, down the South. They wouldn't play in any kind of major areas, and this is one of those films. They were usually usually avoid country music and hee-haw type stuff and things like that. Yeah.
And isn't it the type of movie that you could have pictured when we were kids playing at a double feature with In Search of Historic Jesus or The Search for Bigfoot or something like that?
Well, those are those Sun International films. Those things are always G-rated. I don't think Swamp Girl would have played with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they didn't want to show Noah getting eaten by the gators he put on the ark like on Swamp Girl.
Yeah.
Swamp Girl strikes me as the movie. If you sent a copy to Quentin Tarantino, he would get really jazzed and do a spin-off on it. And seriously, that's not a joke. I could picture Tarantino just saying, "This is too cool," and looking up all the old character actors who were in it to have a small part in the remake. But Ferlin Husky, I actually did have a genuine affection for. He just seemed like one of these guys who, just loved being an entertainer, even years after, his initial rise to fame, faded. He seemed like he, really dug his craft and made had no qualms about it appearing in a movie like Swamp Girl. Too bitchin'. It is too bitchin'. Okay, now we can talk about wrestling that I didn't watch.
Well, actually, we have to talk about someone else who passed away.
That's right, and you know what? I know almost nothing about this story, and Fredo mentioned that you would love to fill us in on this. I'm going to sit back and Vix, you got to tell me, and the rest of you who know more details about the story, join in.
Okay, well, I used it as I must say I used it as an opportunity to also write about some other folks that we have talked about in the past, like Hangman Bruce Pobans or Big Daddy Bruno Cake. But this is a pretty good one. Okay, so a week ago, it's in the obituary pages of the Memphis Commercial Appeal. Sweet Stan Lane, well, not Sweet Stan Lane, I guess, but Stan Lane of the Fabulous Ones died. Okay?
Oh, okay. I've heard the story. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, obviously people start calling him Cornette. Cornette calls him. Unfortunately, his 90-year-old mother heard the rumors. Sal Correnti called. Apparently Sal Correnti and Jim Cornette are the only people who talk to him regularly from wrestling nowadays. So that's also, he figured that it helped fuel the rumors since he doesn't talk to that many people who are still in wrestling. But anyway, next day, Memphis Commercial Appeal, who, by the way, apparently the deal was that they're so understaffed that no one caught it, that they would have otherwise, that no one proofread it. They call anyway, Stan Lane, they do an article about Stan Lane. At first, they weren't able to get in contact with the widow. The widow, and they ended up talking with the widow the next day, who said, she figured her husband's not Stan Lane, and she met him in 1983, but he told her 5 years later, years after they had gotten married, that he had been Stan Lane and just retired when they met. Now, first of all, she had been a wrestling fan with watching with any kind of regularity.
Hey, Vic.
Yes?
Vic, can we continue afterwards?
Oh, why?
We have another caller on the line.
Oh, do we have another caller?
Oh.
Who's the other caller?
Who's the other caller? If I'm on, I'll tell you who the other caller is. If you don't answer the phone, I'm going to annihilate, mutilate, assassinate you. I'll body slam you. I'll throw you into the nickel seats.
Kurt, do you know who this is?
I think it's the late Stan Lane.
Well, let me tell you something, Kurt. I want to tell you what I do for a living. I don't charge people because I'm trying to get my amateur standings back, but I read fortunes. I tell people's present and past. For your listeners, you can understand. You call me, and I'll tell you. For example, Kurt. K-U-R-T.
C-A-N-D-A-L, the love handle.
Oh, my God, are you sickening? I gotta have this.
Wait, I think I know the perfect way to reveal to Kurt.
Oh, hold it a second. I'm not through talking. I want to prove to you that I read fortunes. And I tried to call you before to tell you to prove that I was clairvoyant. Your birthday was March 11th and you were 51 or 52. And now I must have had too many turn-ups last night. I can't remember your age, if it was 51 or 52. But your birthday was the Friday the 11th. Am I correct?
You need to brush up on your clairvoyance and psycho-cybernetics a bit.
Well, when is your birthday, Kurt?
March 13th.
March 13th, you really messed me up. You know what? I'm at the European calendar, and where am I talking to? China or Japan? Ever since that big tidal wave, it took out some of my memory here. So I usually put it on my computer that I've got into my memory bank. But anyway, Kurt, happy birthday, happy belated birthday, and many
Kurt,
more.
Have you figured out who this is yet?
Oh, good Lord, is this Joey Gaynor?
No, I'm not a gainer. When you do a gainer, that's when you dive from a swimming pool and you do all sorts of hero flips and everything. It's called a full gainer. No, I'm not a gainer. I'm a loser. Okay? We'll give you a second choice.
Actually, Mr. Mystery Guest, can I ask you? I don't
know you well enough to ask me personal questions.
It's not a personal question. It's the one way that I think to tell Kurt who you are. I need to say a certain 3-letter word in a way that you used to say at the end of certain when you used to interview certain celebrities.
How about $5, $3.50, $1.50 for kids? Call for reservations right now. Richmond 95171. Or for you people that don't know numbers, let's write it out. It's Ringside. Ringside 95171. Wow! I'll give you one hint. I'm not Dick Lane.
Oh my Lord!
No, I'm not the Lord either. I don't even talk to him. My wife does, but she's kind of religious.
But mystery guest to Kurt, you are the Lord.
Right.
Not a week goes by where he doesn't quote you. Anyway, Kurt, go ahead.
Oh, good Lord. Good Lord Judo Gene, I swear.
First of all, when you mention the name Judo Gene,
yes?
You don't swear.
Okay.
Because my wife will beat you with her wife be good stick. She doesn't allow heathens or swearing. That's why I got all these nicks and scratches and blood all over me because
Okay, so if I swear she'll beat me?
She'll beat you. I haven't had a win since Korea.
No, I want her to do it in front of a crowd while a lot of people watch, okay?
Well, if you're that kinky, go ahead.
Okay.
But as long as they pay for the boletos or the seats.
Well, I'll tell you, Kurt. This is your opportunity to
Yeah, Kurt. This is the real thing,
Yeah, it's Judo Gene LeBell.
Damn.
That's good. When I got Alzheimer's and dementia, I can't remember yesterday. So when I go, and this is kind of important. When you go there, I remember through association. Now, Kurt was a little on the portly side, And, oh, yeah, that's Kurt. Oh, yeah. He's right now, here comes my vision back again. He's sitting in a chair. Am I right?
No.
You're sitting down. You're lying to me.
I'm not lying to you. You're close. I'm lying near a couch on the floor.
Well,
I'm staring at the ceiling.
Tell the truth. Don't lie. Lying near a couch. You just lie standing or laying down. Okay, let's get to business and stop. But when you meet somebody, you should say, "I'm Kurt. I'm world famous for being a impresario on the radio or the cinema for an event." You know, let them know who you are.
This is a beautifully surreal experience for me. This is probably the pinnacle of my career, I must tell you right now.
Well, Kurt, before you start asking Gene questions, I know you probably have a million of them. Gene, thank you so much for being on the show. And also, I want to compliment you. I have been to your website, www.genelebell.com, and it is really...
Wait a second. I'm also hard of hearing. Can you repeat that?
Let me say that again real slow. genelebell.com.
How do you spell it?
It's, you do www first, then Gene, GeneLebell.com.
There you go.
You're my new hero. The heck with John Wayne. You're my hero.
It's a great. My name's Dan, by the way. It's a great website. It really is, Gene.
Well, it's anything that you can communicate with people. See, the website you can understand a lot easier than I speaking with me because I slur my words an awful lot. You know.
Now I heard there was another young man years ago who slurred his words a bit. known as the Hangman.
You don't mean Hank Hangman from Bounty Hunter's Gulch.
That's the one.
Yeah, he had a limp. Something's wrong with him from Bounty Hunter's Gulch. Hank Hangman. And his friends called me Hank. And the guys that he strung up, they called him the Hangman. That was a lot of years ago. I used to watch him when I was a kid.
When you were a little kid. You're probably a little too young to remember him, to be honest with you.
Well, that's true, but being in my second childhood, it's easy to revert back.
Now, is second childhood as just wonderful as people make it out to be?
Well, it is. See, I'm in my third childhood. My birth certificate says I'm 80. I cut that in half to go, revert back. That's 40. Then I cut it back to 20. Then I cut it back to 10. And that's what I remember all these great wrestlers, when I was 10 years old. From the Olympic Auditorium, Richmond 95171.
I must say the first time I ever approached you was at my very first wrestling match at the Olympic Auditorium, 1973, and you totally delivered. Almost no wrestlers were accessible, and I approached you for an autograph, and you went straight into Judo Gene. I mean, I was never more exuberant to meet an idol than meeting you. You stayed in total Richmond 95171 character, and you made my evening, I must say.
Well, then after that you stopped drinking, right?
Oh, I'm starting to think you missed your calling, sir.
Gene, I have a question for you, because Kurt also is a very big fan and an old friend of Dr. Jerry Graham. Do you have any Dr. Jerry Graham stories?
Oh, yes.
None that I could repeat on the radio, but he was a very good wrestler, spent most of his time in Florida, and Jerry Graham, there were a bunch of guys that wrestled under the name of Graham, but he was one of the best. He was a good wrestler. He was crazy. He had mental problems. He got squashed too many times. But good wrestler. A lot of good wrestlers years ago. Because they had a good amateur background, which I'll be glad to talk to you about, people that are interested in wrestling nowadays.
Well, I know.
In fact, I would love to ask you a question about an encounter you had with two wrestlers who had amateur backgrounds. And I didn't actually witness this, but I know a number of people who saw the Channel 13 taping where Mil Mascaras and Bob Roop had a difference of opinion in the ring, and you were the man to intervene. Do you remember that?
Yes, it was Channel 13. I was doing the narration. And Mil Mascaras, Aaron Rodriguez, very good wrestler. Roop, outstanding wrestler. And then sometimes you go beyond the rules of wrestling, and you go for the eyes or below the belt. So it takes somebody to break the situation up. And sometimes the referees, they didn't have enough backbone to break the arguments up. So I jumped in the ring and I stopped the fray, and I think I disqualified both of them, or whatever. They didn't get paid. But that's neither here nor there. Both great wrestlers. Mil Mascaras, one of the greatest. And I was in Mexico working on an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And guy comes up to me in Mexico City. He says, "Mi amigo y compañero, ¿cómo está?" And I says, "Oh, it sounds familiar, but I don't spend time here. Who the heck is it?" He says, "Gene, don't you know who this is?" I said, "Jesus, he's a good-looking guy. He must have been in a movie or something like that. Good-looking guy, great body." And I says, "Well, talk to me, my friend." And he started talking, and I said, "You son of a gun, you're Mil Mascaras." He says, "Well, it took you long enough because I never saw him without a mask." Mascaras.
And I can attest to that because I have been in dressing rooms where Mil Mascaras has been present, and that guy never loses his hood. In fact, several times at Cauliflower Alley, the hotels have tried to deny him entrance in Vegas because he will not take off that mask.
The Destroyer takes off his mask, and you tell him, "Hey, Dick, Bryan, put that mask back on. You're ugly, man." He was whipped by an ugly stick by his folks when he was young. But he's a great the Destroyer. Dick Byers, a great wrestler.
Yeah,
an excellent heel in his day. I never really appreciated what a great heel he was till I saw a match he had with Ricky Dosen, and he had the art down just beautifully.
Well, one of my favorite matches that I ever saw as a fan, I saw him and Hank Hangman wrestle, and the loser gets his mask torn off. And that dirty old Destroyer, he taped it on with duct tape, and I think he sewed it into his skin. So it ended up going an hour draw because nobody could get his mask off. And, of course, the Hangman had his mask sewed onto his body, you know. And he's still on needles and pins and needles.
Gene,
well, speaking of the Hangman, we do have to alert people that Johnny Legend is going to be re-releasing a 2-CD set of Geek Mania very soon, which includes interviews with Ringo the Wrestling Beetle, Sandor Sabo, and the Hangman.
Oh.
I was in partners with Sandor Sabo in a wrestling school in 1951 in right near UCLA. Sandor Sabo was the Hungarian champion. A very good wrestler. And I was professional because I took money. Then I got my amateur athletic union amateur. Then I went back to amateur and won the AAU Judo Nationals. And now, 55 years later or 60 years later, I can say, hey, I wasn't really an amateur. But now in the Olympics, the pro basketball players and a lot of pros get in to see who's the best athlete. But pro, you think of as having a little bit more experience than amateur. It's best to get the best participant in there. Anyway, if anybody wants to call in and get a discount on any martial arts gear, anything, they call the website GeneLeBell.com, or if they want to come over and be your guest, be Kurt's guest, and take a free grappling lesson, we have a beautiful new school in North Hollywood, California, and I'm there Monday nights when I'm not doing movie work or stunt work, and the address there is 7229 Atoll, Atoll Avenue, North Hollywood, California, 91605. And you can get that through my website or my partners, www.gokor.com. And a lot of the old pros work out there. We have a boxing ring and an MMA, mixed martial arts cage, and we got a giant grappling mat for judo and grappling. And some of the old pros come there just to keep in shape because we got a lot of treadmills and stuff. And oh God, you name it. Roddy Piper comes there and he trains. He's got a boy that's a very good mixed martial artist, and
yes.
And a lot of the pros come there. And what's good is we do a lot of finishing holds that are illegal in amateur wrestling. And people learn that before they get into the pro because they really know how to take care of themselves. So in the old school of wrestling, everybody had a good amateur background.
Say, Judo Gene, at GeneLeBell.com, don't you have a book of finishing holds for sale?
Do I have a book? Man, I'm going to give you an attitude adjustment. Sure, I've got a book. I got a lot of books, but you get the Encyclopedia of Grappling, and you can call and tell them you want a discount, that you heard that on the radio, and you get 10 or 15% off. It's good. My Life Story, they also sell that if you want to know more about the wrestlers and the stunts and the actors that I've worked with, and a lot of the actors that have come down to the school and became martial arts experts. A lot of things you don't know the background. There's a lot of back of the fence stories that really might interest you. It interests most everybody.
Yeah,
but
it's an excellent book.
If you're interested in grappling, I have holds that are named after Red Bastien, Hulk Hogan, Freddie Blassie, the Freddie Blassie bite. Too many to mention because there's 950 finishing holds, and that isn't. Some of them are illegal. Some are the dark side of the moon. The dark side of the moon. You're laughing. I have to burn your house down. The dark side of the moon is what the referee doesn't see didn't happen. What the referee didn't see didn't happen. That's the dark side of the moon.
Speaking of referee, I remember approaching you once in 1977. I think I was buying a program from you, and I asked you if you had refereed the Inoki Ali match, and you just kind of nodded your head and said, yeah, it was interesting, and you left it at that. And I would love to know more detail about your experience refereeing that match.
Well, they had 200 people applying to be the referee of Muhammad Ali and Tony Inoki, and it came down to the one that was the most qualified. How did they get it? They got 10 Playboy bunnies to be judges and see who's the best looking. So I won hands down.
And Red Shoes Dugan didn't win. Wow.
No, he was whooped with an ugly stick. Ray Gideon, Red Shoes Dugan, a great referee. In fact, I got him in a movie, and he did a little wrestling he was like 90 then, called Bad Guys. If you ever go to the store,
I remember that. He actually wrestles in that movie.
Yeah, he wrestled, and I played Terrible Turk McGurk. And
with Ruth Buzzy.
Ruth Buzzy played my wife. Great gal, fantastic gal. And if you want to see Ruth Buzzy wrestle, buy the thing. It's an old movie. You probably can get it for 3 or 4 cents. Bad Guys, it's called. But it's very funny, very entertaining.
Gene, you were talking about finishing holds, and one of the most famous finishing holds around right now is the LeBell lock, which Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan uses. Can you tell us how you developed that? How you came up with that?
No, because I tell you why I can't.
Okay.
You don't know the rules, but they kill the messenger.
Oh, well, I don't want to know that.
You know, and so you have to buy the book, and there's 4 or 5 variations in this pro wrestler that does it better than I do. Of course, he's younger. He's got to be about 78 or 79, and I'm 80. It's in the book. Tell you, guy, you want to know more about it? Buy the book.
Well, it must have been quite a kick for you, though, all of a sudden to have this guy out there using this move and crediting you with it.
You know something? That's a compliment. And I tell you, to use the original person, that's a good compliment. Like in the MMA, they use the word Kimura for a double wrist lock or a downward arm crank. And actually where that came from is there was a All Japan Wrestling champion or grappling champion, judo champion, and he was a pro wrestler. And he went down to Brazil and beat everybody with a downward arm crank and double wrist lock. And they couldn't pronounce double wrist lock or downward arm crank, so they called it the Kimura. But it doesn't matter. It's the same hold. When they call it the guard in people that watch the fights on TV, the guard was foot and leg control for 200 years. And the butterflies, inside, outside, grapevine. It doesn't matter as long as you can do the technique. Somebody calls something a full Nelson or a half crab. Count Billy Varga called it the Varga stretch, abdominal stretch. As long as they can do it, that's the main thing. Some people work a hold so much that they call it the LeBell hold. And this kid on WWE, he does it better than I've seen anybody do it. Man's magnificent. Wow. You know,
that is saying a lot.
He got all my techniques, and if you don't show your techniques, a library burns if you die. You understand?
Yeah.
So you show his techniques. The only thing is, he does these holds so good, but he's still ugly. You know? I mean, he could go bear hunting with a switch. You know, I told him, when you come to my house, you wear a mask because you are scary.
One of the things I have always wanted to tell you is, I started watching KCOP wrestling on Channel 13 in 1972. I was 10 years old, and they would always refer to you as Judo Gene LeBell, but they would never go into the details. And I wasn't able to appreciate it at the time until I learned about your background, but I always admired how, as the man who takes the locker room interviews, you were willing to look intimidated by a lot of guys who you probably could have schooled.
Yeah, but you
seriously,
don't
I always
school guys unless you get paid for it.
Yes. No, I always admired that. You could probably school half these guys, but you had no qualms about putting them over, making them look like, like I remember one instance when the Wolfman came running out, and you had this look like, oh my God, watch out for this guy. And I just later years I thought, damn, this guy could put his ego aside and sell it. It was awesome.
Well, that's show business, isn't it?
You rock.
As
I'm still
my
pinching myself
mother
that I'm
used to
talking
say,
to you, by the way.
if it sells boletos, go for it. Tickets.
That's right.
Yeah, but there's a lot of the Wolfman. A lot of these guys were classics, like you mentioned, Sandro Szabo, and you never mentioned Andre the Giant. A lot of guys probably. Thesz was one of the greatest of all times. And you want to see a magazine on them, we sell it at our website. Thesz, he was one of the greatest champions of all times. And Karl Gotch used to get a lot of money for training the people in Japan. And he taught me a lot of holds. And I give guys credit. If they taught me that, I said, hey, Karl Gotch taught me downward arm crank with a wrist lock. So instead of just breaking the elbow and the shoulder, you break the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder. And it's good luck. Like in show business, they say break a leg means good luck. Well, Carl used to say break an arm and a leg means good luck. But he was more sadistic than me. I love.
Now, one guy I know you're very close that you were very close friends with for many years, and I hate to see his name fade into history, is Count Billy Varga. How did you get to know him?
I got to know him. His father he won a gold in the World's Amateur Championship, and he used to wear it all the time. And he and Sandro Szabo used to get in arguments because he says, this is real gold. And Then Billy, who's been a little under the weather for the last few years. He's had some bad luck. His wife passed away, and his 3 kids on different reasons passed away. But he was one of the greats of wrestling. But, you know, you're turning back the clock 40 years, 50 years. I wrestled Count Billy Vargo many times, and I got him a lot of movie work because he's a great guy. And we worked out together in the wrestling gyms around the world. Great wrestler. He was one of my heroes. You know, now he's kind of sick in the hospital. I don't know how long he'll go, so I have to have a new hero. How about Kurt? Are you good up to be my hero?
I'm up for grabs, but I think you might be sadly disappointed. I think
you ought to go down to Gene's school and go a couple rounds with Gene and see maybe if you might be his new hero.
Well, let me see how many sick days I have at work, and I might just take him up on that.
Well, come on down, take a free workout. Have your friends come down and take a free workout. And we're there. I'm there Mondays. I commit myself. But Benny Orchides, Benny the Jet, great karate guy. He teaches there. There's Muay Thai guys and Kempo guys and Taekwondo guys. A lot of amateur wrestlers, a lot of pros, a lot of judo. Gokar Chavichian he's the best of the best, you know, and great teacher. And if any of the adults or the teachers, the kids or the women want to come down and be able to defend yourself, and when you graduate, we give you a certificate. You get a knife, a gun, and a vial of poison in case you're caught.
Oh, Lord. Looking back,
it's Gene. I told you, it's Gene. Lord's my father.
I keep mistaking you for Lord Blears. I don't know why. You're a lot more
Lord Blears is in Hawaii. He's the one that taught me how to surf.
No way.
Lousy teacher. I broke a couple of my front teeth in half and had to have caps because he wasn't the greatest surfing teacher. He's a great surfer. Great guy. Great guy. I got him a little movie work, too, when he was much more active.
I know, Gene, that you wanted to mention also for listeners that you do have martial arts supply at this website. It's www.valleymartialartsupply.com for everybody out there that's listening and needs martial arts supply. I know that you provide those, so I wanted to.
The thing is, you know, if they tell them you sent them and you want the discount, you know.
Oh, excellent.
Or if they don't get the discount, Gene personally will come over and burn their house down. And I don't want anybody calling me that lives in a brick house. It has to be straw or wood.
So there you go.
Now,
one more time.
I'm still pinching myself. That we have Judo Gene LeBell on the podcast, and I've been hogging all the questions. I want to have all the other callers ask some stuff here. Come on.
There you go.
Well, Ryan, finish your thought first.
Yeah, I just wanted to repeat it for a little slower for everybody. The website is www.valleymartialartsupply.com.
How do you spell that? www.
This is going to take a while. VALLEYMARTIALARTSUPPLY.com.
Well, I don't think on the website that has it just says valleymartialarts.com. That's close enough to get to it. It's in North Hollywood if somebody wants to come by. They got a lot of books if you're into the wrestling books, and there's some good wrestling books and other martial arts books, and a lot of people want knives or swords or focus gloves or boxing gloves or karate stuff. You want to buy presents for somebody for Christmas or birthdays, and
Awesome.
in fact, they got a special for Kurt when he comes in the gym. It's called the English translation is a blindfold. So you come in and you wear it, and you can't tell who's going to kill you.
If I hear the wow, then I'll know who it is. You can't fake that.
That's true.
Gene, you knew Strangler Ed Lewis, right?
He was my first coach.
Now, what was that like?
Well, he helped me invent a hold. As a matter of fact, and it's a long story, but it's the three-fingered grip. I was great wrestler. He used to work out at the L.A. Athletic Club with all these men, and my mother used to send me there to get rid of me. And so when I was 7 years old, and so I went there, and they were showing me the different grips or holds. And Ed Strangler Lewis, his real name was Robert Herman Jules Friedrich, and he died in Mascaras, Oklahoma, and that's where Jack Benny came from. Mascaras, Oklahoma, I guess at the age of 76. But he was a great wrestler, and so he showed me the wrestling grips. And I had, 7 years old, I had short fingers, so I gripped it different so I could get my hands around my hand. And now it's become world famous. Ed used to say, "Well, that's Gene's three-fingered grip," and now it's world famous all over the world.
Wow.
Now, he was your first coach. How old were you when you actually actively started, going into judo, wrestling, the other martial arts?
7.
Sorry about that. Hello?
Yeah, 7 years old. I got a whole line of phones here, and my beautiful secretary is answering the other phone and telling him that I'm talking to Ryan and Kurt and all these people, and
we are so enjoying this.
Oh,
I'm still pinching myself. I know I said that 3 times already, but I'm going to say it again anyways. You mentioned your mother, and Eileen Eaton. Back when we were growing up, she was a household name. Could you just tell us what it was like growing up with your mother, the boxing promoter?
Well, she was a single parent. My father passed away when I was very young, and she had this auditorium called the Olympic Auditorium, and she promoted boxing and wrestling, and her name was Eileen Eaton. When my father died, many years later, she married a young man named Cal Eaton, and so a lot of people didn't know that we were relatives, In fact, I was so close to her, I used to get home and I'd say, "Hey, Mom," but at work she was Mrs. Eaton.
Wow. There you go.
But to get rid of me, she'd send me down to the L.A. Athletic Club or Main Street Gym to learn boxing. So I grew up in boxing and wrestling and all that hero stuff. And that ruined my life, and instead of being a rocket scientist or a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, I ended up being a stuntman. It's been very lucrative for the last 55 or 60 years,
And you're still
an
going
amazing,
strong.
Yeah, you've had an amazing career. You could be seen on the Wild Wild West up until 24, just even a year or so ago. How do you keep in shape, Gene, at this point?
I eat tabbouleh, which is Armenian salad, and I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't take dope. And if any of your listeners drink, smoke, or take dope, come on down and they'll get 2 free lessons. But they won't be around to get the second free lesson. They'll be on the street looking up at the curb, but they won't see the curb. And smoking's a sign of emotional immaturity. So, that's just common sense. And to be absolutely truthful, when I was very young, I was married. My wife got sick and died. She had a daughter that started smoking, and I said, quit smoking, quit smoking. She ended up getting lung cancer, went to her brain, her throat, and she died about 6 months ago, and that's from smoking. And so I told her, some people think you're joking, but, you know, you crash your car, you buy a new car. You crash your body, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, you don't get a second take on that one.
No, there's no take 2 like in the movies.
Now, throughout the years, we've heard a lot about the numerous people in the wrestling and the judo community you've gotten to know, but the people you've worked with in the acting industry, anybody who you had.
Burt Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
He's the stuntmen are putting on a race in about a month. It's a motorcycle race, and it's named after Burt Reynolds. I worked with every star in Hollywood. So, in fact, every male star in Hollywood's beat me up at one time or another, and half the women. The only reason it's half the women, the other half are on steroids, and I'm afraid to fight them.
You're going to be the next one to take on Christine Cyborg?
I got a gal that can beat her.
Ooh. Wow.
Really? Do you want to tell us a little bit about her?
Rhonda the Rough Rossi. She's the only one from the United States that won a medal in the last Olympics in judo. And she just turned 24. She's a very good boxer, unbelievable wrestler and judo person. And she's a pretty gal. That Cyber, I don't mean to take anything away from her. She's probably the second best woman MMA fighter in the world, although I think she's the champion now. But if you want to come down and see this woman that works with us, she beats a lot of the men, big guys, you know.
Now, can people come down to the gym and watch if they just wanted to, Gene?
Yeah, they can, but you know, you can watch a movie, but unless you get hands-on,
right?
You know, it's like you watch a skiing movie. Unless you're on the skis, you don't know what it's like. You watch a boxing movie, you don't feel the punches. You know, just say, hey, that's good or that's bad. So I say, be your guest and say Ryan or Kurt and be the guest and take a free workout. You don't have to. You could come on down there and we don't have to tie you up so you can't leave. You just watch the kids' class, the men's class, Benny Arkides' class of karate. It's my home. It's really my home. It's Gokar Chavichin, my top student in the whole that's ever lived, and I've had people, national champions in different arts and Olympic competitors. He's the best teacher in the world, and so I worked there. I've been working there since he was young, and for free, because they never charged me when I was young, so I devote my time. I say Monday nights, and sometimes I come down there on other nights. Monday and Wednesday's grappling. Tuesday and Thursday is sport judo. Got some good judo people there. I won the nationals a couple times in this country in judo, and when I turned pro, I started working with go-kart, and I said, I'll teach judo for you. And he says, no, you teach the grappling. And because what we did with Ed Strangler Lewis and Lou Thesz is the finishing holds, which you see a lot of them on the MMA. And so that's all I've ever taught is the grappling. But, you use a few judo throws. In wrestling, they may call it a wizard. They call it in judo an uchibata, which is an inside thigh sweep, or a haragosh, or a hanagosh, or a haragosh, just to throw a person over your hip. It doesn't matter what you call it as long as you can do it. I eliminate the forms that you see in a lot of martial arts, which are very good, but they're not the best for self-defense. We only teach what is practical on the street or in competition.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a lot of the pros come down there.
When you see somebody, do you get a kind of a rough idea what they can handle or what holds you want to show them? Or
well, it depends the attitude. Somebody come in with their tail between their legs, and I say, hey, you go out and better get some get a gun or something like that because you won't make it. I don't try to discourage people. See, it's not only learning self-defense, and it's good for your health. Your condition is good. Your wind is good. If a car's out of gas, it doesn't run. And so if you have lousy conditioning or wind, somebody grabs you, you'll melt just like my friend in the Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the East or whatever it was. She just melted right into nothing like a burnt candle. In other words, get in shape. If it isn't our gym, go to, there's other good gyms. John McCarthy, who's a referee and a
right,
judge.
Yeah.
The archetype of the MMA referees.
Yeah, good guy. He has a school near Magic Mountain. It's worth looking into if you don't live near North Hollywood. Although I have people coming from Bakersfield, San Diego every week just to work out. Or either that or they just come to see another pretty face, and I'm not trying to brag or anything.
Gene, I have to ask you, because one of my idols has always been Bruce Lee. What was it like to work with him?
Well, first of all, Bruce was a great, great martial artist, but he always put too much starch in my shirts. And I met him on a show called Enter the Dragon. Not Enter the Dragon. He had a TV show.
Green Hornet? The Green Hornet?
Green Hornet.
Yeah. I worked the last Green Hornet, but there was a lot of violence in that, and nobody was ever killed in the Green Hornet. So he worked out with me, and he said, "Hey, Gene, you come to Hong Kong. We're going to do a movie, and it's called Enter the Dragon." And I said, "Hey, listen, Bruce, I got to smarten you up. All the dragons died. They died over a year ago. Believe me, trust me, because I don't lie." And he says, No, Gene, I am the dragon. And I says, well, Jesus, I know you're kind of ugly, but anyway, he says, you come, you make $200 a week. Well, I used to make over $1,000 a week just working on these Western shows, a lot of them. And why would I want to go to Hong Kong and eat roadkill, you know? Anyway, see, when I work on these shows, after you work, you get paid again. You get residuals, and you make a lot of money in residuals. Enter the Dragon came back. It was a great movie for its time, but it was non-union, so these guys don't get residuals. I have a friend of mine, Bob Wall, who worked the movie, and he's real famous. He sells autographed pictures and everything, but I'd rather work 1,000 different movies and TV as I have and get those residuals and have all these houses in ranches that are paid for, and that's from losing, not winning.
Yes. Yes.
I was just looking at IMDb at some of Gene's credits. I didn't realize that you were in the episode of that 70s show where they had The Rock and Ken Shamrock and Ernie Ladd on, and I was wondering, what was it like just kind of, I guess, meeting some of the...
Ernie Ladd was a great football player, a great wrestler. He passed away. Also, I think The Rock was on it, wasn't he?
Right, yeah. I mean, I was going to say, what was it like sort of seeing Ernie Ladd for, I guess, what would have been the first time in a while and meeting...
yeah, and Ken Shamrock was very, very good, and his brother is a very good mixed martial artist. They were very good. You know, I only associate with good people. That's why I got rid of my first 12 wives. They weren't good people.
So 13th wife is a charm then,
Yeah. I'm glad she isn't here. She'd burn my house down if she had me talk like that. She says I'm old enough to have 20 wives, but, I sort of sometimes exaggerate the truth. So my wife says, stop talking to yourself.
Well, speaking of things like truth, the question we've always talked about, and we're wondering if it's true or not. We heard that all the KCOP Channel 13 TV tapings, that the videos are no longer in existence. Nobody should look for them because they were erased over.
Well, then what they had is they had all these videos, and they were on a thick tape, not like they do nowadays. Of course, they're doing now and everything on disc, but they used to tape over them every week. They tape over the show. When you talk to Jeff Welton, he'd probably give you more input than anything else. I have just one movie. That's one of a guy named Gorgeous George wrestling.
Wow. Now, what was Gorgeous George like?
His name was George Wheeler, great amateur wrestler, and he had long hair, and my mother said, I'm going to the barber. Why don't you come to the hairstylist? Why don't you come there and comb your hair decent? So she took him there, and they dyed his hair blonde, and they put bobby pins in it. And she said, George, you're gorgeous. And that's a true story, and it's in my book. And then he became Gorgeous George, and he outdrew all the champions because he did a little shtick. In fact, Henry Winkler did a movie called The One and Only, which I was in and ran the stuff.
Yes.
And they couldn't do exactly what Gorgeous George did because the wife wanted to sue him, for not paying him, So it was a lot different. And Henry Winkler's a great actor, and a good athlete, too. And I ended up having a wrestling match with him in the movie. It's worth seeing.
Yeah, that movie was great. I mean, it had.
But if you have a weak stomach, don't watch. Because I annihilated, mutilated, assassinated my opponent.
There you go. And I remember that movie also had, it featured Roddy Piper and I believe
that
Chavo
was his
Guerrero.
First movie job, Roddy Piper.
Wow.
What's the name, of course? Jimmy Lennon, I think, is the scene stealer in the movie.
Jimmy Lennon was in it. Hardball, Haggerty.
I think one of Dick Lane's final appearances, he was one of the ring announcers in the movie, too. In fact, what was that like working with Dick Lane and Jimmy Lennon?
Well, Jimmy Lennon was the best announcer that ever lived. Dick Lane, a lot of these holds like Snapmare and these sort of things, he wasn't a wrestler, so he invented his own name. And he was very good at one-liners. He played Boston Blackies on that Boston Blackies series. He was a detective for years. Great actor, did a lot of movies. But he loved to do wrestling, and he did roller derby, too.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the side of cars and sold cars, and he's a good guy.
One of the things I remember about Dick Lane was whether you were watching a great match or a really a dead match, he made you excited about it. He knew how to just make you happy to be watching.
That's right. That's what makes a good announcer. I mean, you see a lot of fights that are dull because they're a defensive fight, not offensive but defensive, and it might be a little bit boring. And he made it well explain that this is what they're doing and this is why they're doing it and this is what they have to do to win. And boy, you'd just be glued to the TV.
Yeah, he was very entertaining.
Gene, one of my favorite memories, I used to go out to the San Bernardino Arena every Sunday night in the 1970s, and I still remember to this day a brawl that you had with Fabulous Frank Monty and Crusher Verdue, and it was one of the wildest things I still have seen to this day. You were refereeing, and they had worked you over, and you went back in the dressing room, and about 5 seconds later, the dressing room door actually came off its hinges as you guys poured out into the lobby and started fighting.
Could be.
Yeah,
that was on G Street in San Bernardino.
G Street in San Bernardino, but I've never forgotten that after all these years. It was just one of the best moments. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes when I refereed, I'd get excited and I'd rip off my shirt and pants and start to wrestle. You don't get paid extra for it, but when your elevator doesn't go to the top and you got a room temperature IQ, that's what you do.
Well, you needed to give them what for. That's the reason.
Give them a what for. That's it.
That's right. That's right. Well, this has been just so enjoyable. I hate for this show to end. I really do.
Well, let's make it another day and do make it a series instead of just a one-shot deal.
I would love that. We would love to have you back on really soon.
Absolutely.
Very soon.
You don't give a dime. You're just saying that.
And Gene, we'll put up all the information for the websites and the address of the school on the Slammin Stan page, so that way, if anybody couldn't write fast enough to get the information down, they can find it there.
It sounds good, and I appreciate that. And I don't often say thank you to ugly people, but this will be my first.
In our case, you'll make the exceptions.
Oh, there you go.
And Kurt, I think you need to pay a visit to the school. I think you need to get down there.
I think I need to be humbled, yes. I think I will have to do that. And we encourage everybody listening in the Southern California area, this is the man. This is the guy who put the judo in Judo, Gene LeBell, totally. This, I just want to say this is really an honor to be able to speak with you, and this is the best birthday present I could ask for. This is so awesome, and once you know how much I enjoyed, watching you do the locker room interviews on Channel 13, I thought you and Jimmy Lennon and Dick Lane were the perfect hosts of any wrestling show I've ever seen.
Some of those guys you mentioned, the Dick Lane and Jimmy Lennon, are the best. Oh, it's coming back to me. The switch. Oh, there it is. It's the 13th, not the 11th. That's your birthday. I got it now. Sometimes I get brain fade.
You're even more awesome than I thought you were. You rock. You are the greatest Judo Gene.
Yeah.
So,
wait, it's coming. I'm sorry, we were talking about wrestling. Roddy Piper. He's born 1954, April 17th. My God.
There you go.
Wow. How do you like that?
There you go.
You know how I remember that? That's the first day I won the first time I won the Nationals.
Wow.
But Roddy Piper, you'll see him down there, and maybe you can have a death match with him.
Yeah.
That'll be your death, Kurt, actually.
Oh, Lord. I was wondering if one of the things available on your website is the match between you and the boxer.
Well, yeah, you can buy the tape, 10-minute tape. Milo Savage was the first televised MMA match between a boxer and a martial artist. And the story that goes along with it, it's very interesting. It's only like $20. And with your discount, it's probably only $19.95. But it's an interesting situation. You can see how things have changed over a period of years.
What kind of rules was it under?
Well, the rules changed as I got there. I wasn't allowed to do karate kicks and hammer fists. I wasn't allowed to do. And I says, well, can I talk to him or do something to make him go to sleep, choke him unconscious? Yeah, you can choke him unconscious. Good luck. And so this guy was number 5 light heavyweight in the world. And he was supposed to fight Dick Tiger for the lightweight championship, and right after that. And so anyway, it's part of history in the martial arts. Kind of interesting.
In fact, when the Ultimate Fighting Championships first started hitting pay-per-view, did you ever think it...
I don't know. You'd have to call the California Athletic Commission, because I did so many illegal ones. 1963, I was the first illegal. Then I used to go to the Indian reservations and grapple and referee and have students there. And you can still go to the Indian reservations, but anywhere else in California or Nevada, you're under the sanction of the California Athletic Commission. And George Dodd is the head of it, and it's in Sacramento. And if you want to promote MMA or boxing in California, you talk to George Dodd of the California Athletic Commission in Sacramento, California. And I judge a lot of matches. In fact, the 24th I'm judging here. I don't go out of the state too much anymore because I can't afford the pay cut, so I work around here.
Now, when UFC started becoming really popular in the mid-'90s, did you think it would evolve into the sport it has become today?
Oh, yeah, I did. And it hasn't hit bottom yet. It's still going to go up. It's the flavor of the month. MMA is outdrawing boxing, professional boxing, and professional wrestling together.
Wow. Did it surprise you, though, that it took a few years for guys to really start training and learning different styles?
It just had to get legalized. In some of the states, in New York, it's still not legal. In New Jersey, it's legal. A lot of states are legal, but you can get it on paid TV. It's a good sport, and it shows that to be a good martial artist, you have to box, wrestle, judo, kempo, shotokan, taekwondo. You got to do a little bit of everything,
That's what I was wondering. Were you surprised that it took a few years for guys to really start training different
nothing good is overnight. It takes a lot of years to get things going. It's something messes up. It's going to take years before Japan and all their trouble with the earthquake and giant waves. It'll be years before they get back to normal. And nothing good or bad happens quick. A lot of bad things happen when people die, but, you never die if you leave something behind you, like write a book on something that you know that somebody else doesn't know. And, I don't feel I'll ever die as long as my students live on, and if my students live on, I will live on.
Amen.
And you're going to live forever, it sounds like, then.
Well, I got a couple more weeks to go anyway. A couple of weeks I got to go out and race some motorcycles, so I got to stay awake until then, or alive till then.
Well, we must wind this up now, but Judo Gene LeBell, Mr. LeBell, I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank whichever Hepcats arranged for you to appear on our show.
That was Ryan.
That would be Ryan.
Bryan Doyle.
You know,
he's a good guy.
Oh, thank you.
He is a really wonderful guy.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, he passes. So he passes the Gene LeBell muster then. Okay. We have that established.
Well, call me anytime, any hour, as long as it's after 10:30 in the morning, because I sleep in.
Oh, bless you. Well, before we go, could we hear one of those Judo Gene wows?
How about saving the wow, which is really interesting, to our next time you interview me, so your fans will wait with bated breath to hear.
There you go.
I agree.
Wow.
I agree, and we are very
can't give
very
everything
pleased.
away the first time. No magician shows all this stuff.
Save it for the rematch, Kurt. Save it for the rematch.
Exactly. Well, it gives us all something forward to listen to and something to look forward to. I'm going dyslexic big time, and I'm not even 50 yet. This really sucks.
Well,
So, definitely we're raised by a promoter.
Sounds good to me. All right.
Yes.
Keep smiling, champ.
Thank
Both
you,
you
Judo
champs.
Gene.
Thank you, Gene.
Mr. LeBell.
Of course, a lot of you guys aren't champs. You're just contenders. That's neither here nor there.
Like I said, we have to have something to look forward to.
All right. Call me sometime and we'll finish it up. If some of the listeners want to call in, maybe I can help them out.
Okay. On behalf of the legend Judo Gene LeBell, Alfredo Esparza, Dan Farron, Ryan Doyle, and the Big C Demon, want to remind you, if you're ever going for a stroll on a starry night in Southern California and you see a bright light streaking across the sky, it's not a shooting star. It is a heavenly handful of Moncel
powder.
Oh, my
See you in
God.
2 weeks.
Talking about John told us throwing that stuff at Freddie Blassie?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
One of the greatest moments in TV history.
Yeah, he blinded him for, boy, that's... Oh, Godsky. He didn't know the difference. You know...
And it led to the
brains
biggest
were
gate.
measured in Cadillacs. He'd have been on roller skates.
Oh, we'll see you in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen.
Keep smiling. Au revoir, bientôt. Sayonara, and